We'll call the Dallas City Council meeting for Monday, December 1st, 2025 to order at 7 p.m. I ask all of you to, first I'll have the city recorder call the roll.
Council President Briggs.
Here.
Councilor Barrientos.
Here.
Councilor Blosser.
Here.
Councilor Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilor Holzapfel.
Here.
Councilor Jantz.
Here.
Councilor Schilling.
Here.
Councilor Shane.
Here.
Councilor Spivey.
Here.
Right, now will everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we don't have any introductions, recognitions, or proclamations tonight, so we'll move right into public comment. I do have a script I need to read before we do that. For the record, please provide us with your name and whether or not you live inside the city limits. You have up to 3 minutes. It's your turn to talk and ours to listen. You are responsible for the content, even if it was written by someone else. Please direct all comments to the mayor. Do not direct your comments to individual councilors, staff members, or the audience. Defamatory or libelous comments will not be accepted. It is expected that you will maintain decorum and respect for each other. A wide variety of viewers watch these proceedings. Therefore, we would kindly ask that you refrain from the use of offensive and language and name calling. Distractions take attention from the speaker. The audience, city council members, and city staff are asked to focus on the speaker during their time by being respectfully quiet. And the first person I have up is Ann Hurd.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I'm president, Ann Hurd. I live in Dallas. I'm president of Friends of the Dallas Aquatic Center. And it's kind of fun. Is Allison here? I don't think Allison's here. I did the podcast for the city of Dallas last week. And I think it's going to drop, she said, on maybe December 8th. So that would be kind of fun to listen to and see how Charlie and I did. I think it went pretty well. Anyway, it's all about money with us, and I sent out 30 banner renewals today, and that will bring in over $18,000 to the Friends of the Dallas Aquatic Center. A lot of businesses pay before the end of the current year, so we're hoping to get that number up. We have about 5,000 in it right now. We're 1,500 from giving you, the city, another 5,000, and then the banner payments will start to roll in. And that's the most fun for me, to go to the post office. And then we're going to be working on reconcreting the locker room floors, and bigger project than that, to which we will give between $11,000 and $15,000 in February, is scraping all the old plaster. It's horribly dirty off, well, it's 25 years old, off the leisure pool and the lazy river, and replastering it, and it'll make the whole thing look brand new, because the water won't look brown anymore. It'll be that beautiful sparkling blue of the lap pool. And this weekend is the first swim meet of the season. It'll be Central Dallas against South Albany, and it's from 4 to 6 at the Aquatic Center if anybody wants to drop in. So that should be fun. I've never been to one myself, but I really would like to see how they work. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Ann? Do we have anyone else in the audience who wants to give public comment tonight? Do we have anyone on the phone? No. If not, we'll close the public comment section and we move on to reports or comments from the mayor or council members. I don't have anything. Does any council members have anything for this evening? Hearing none, we'll move right on to reports from the city manager and staff. First on that list is Planning Commission appointment. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor Slack. So we had a vacancy on the Planning Commission earlier this year. We had a planning commissioner have to resign. And so we solicited applications for that, and we received one. It's from Scott White. He is a resident of Dallas. His current profession is in land use planning. And so the council appoints individuals to serve on boards, commissions, and committees, including the Planning Commission. The mayor made a recommendation to recommend Scott White for appointment. The Planning Commission is unique with other committees and commissions in that you can't have more than two people from the same profession serve on the Planning Commission at the same time. And so we had to evaluate all of our current planning commissioners, and I'm happy to report that Scott White does not push us over the two. He is our second person that's in the profession of land use planning, but not the third. So he is eligible with all the criteria that are outlined in the municipal code. So with that, there's a recommended motion on the bottom of page 3 of your packet.
Counselor Shane.
I'll move to appoint Scott White to serve on the Planning Commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2026.
A motion from Counselor Shane. Do you have a second?
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Shane and second by Counselor Holzapfel. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a comment on
Sure,
kind of
Larry.
unrelated. One of the things in Scott's application that kind of caught my attention was he said he will work, if he's appointed, he will work with other commissioners and community members to achieve the council goals. And I had a conversation with Brian just earlier, and I thought, I don't think we've really ever had an opportunity to workshop with the Planning Commission to kind of convey our goals, if we have goals about the planning of the city. So I suggested to Brian that we maybe bring them in February, you thought?
Yeah, I think sometime after the new year, February, March, to be able to have just a joint work session with the Planning Commission and the council is a good idea.
It's a good idea, and you're right. Before coming here, I spent the last 12 years on the Planning Commission, and we never did have the kind of meeting you're talking about, so you're absolutely right.
Could avoid some of those decisions that come to us from them that we reverse.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
But a lot of
Anyway.
land use changed this time, this round, and a lot of it, remember, we've given to them, so it's good to have them on the same page. And let's make sure we go over goals and policy.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good opportunity to look at, the council's goals, our policies, be a good opportunity to do some training, both for the Planning Commission and the council on land use matters. So we'll put together a good agenda for that meeting, probably target, again, February or March.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is City of Dallas lien docket. It's just a document you provided, Brian.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Mayor Slack. So I'll invite our Finance Director, Cecilia Ward, to come up in case the council has any questions for her. But at our last meeting, when the council approved the adding liens to the lien docket, there was a request by the council to have us put together the full list of liens that the City of Dallas has. And so Cecilia did that, and they're included as attachment A to this report. You'll notice that the liens go back to 2023. So just the last 3 years have we been doing liens, and they're all related to weed abatement. The city does have other types of activities that we might do that could result in a lien on a property, but we don't have any of those currently on our books. They're all related to weed abatement. So I don't know if, Cecilia, there's anything else you want to add to that?
The only thing I wanted to add was the current resolution that you passed on November 17th. It actually had 2 years' worth, the 2024 and 2025. We're trying to keep up with it better because what happens is the property sells and then we can't have the lien on it. And so what we did was we captured all of 2025 too to include it, and that's why there was a larger lien docket on this current resolution.
But when the property sells, aren't we paid at that time through closing?
Yes, only if the lien is on a lien docket though. So we miss that window sometimes if I don't get it on the lien docket and the property sells, even with the weed abatement on there, there's nothing we can do because it's not on the lien docket. So
we want to make sure we're timely in getting the lien assessments to the council each year. So Cecilia is saying if we do weed abatement on a property in June, and then we don't get the lien docket to you until like February, but the property sells in October, we lose that money, right? Because the person who now bought the property wasn't responsible at the time that we did the work. And so we're not going to apply the lien to that property when the property ownership has changed.
If we apply a lien, isn't it at the county where it's a recorded lien? They can't.
Right, but what we're saying is the liens aren't in effect until the council passes the resolution. If the property sells before the resolution is passed, then the new property owner shouldn't be responsible for the prior property owner's negligence in taking care of their weeds, right?
It should be a monthly.
It could be,
Weed abatement is seasonal, so what we need to do is we could start following the weed abatement. Once it starts picking up as in the months, then we could look at that a little bit better. And we have to give them a window too, and we send them a notification, a certified mail, and, there's a time that we have to give them to respond. And so, but we can start with the first month of weed abatements and follow it quicker and then get it on a lien docket faster too. So yes, our goal is to do that.
you're generally looking at least about a 2-month lag, right, from when we do the work until we can get the resolution before the council. Because like what Cecilia is saying is you do the work, you send them an invoice for the work, you give them 30 days to pay it. If they don't pay it, then following that is when you can assign them to the lien docket. And then it might be another 2 weeks or, until the council sees it with a resolution. So, you're looking at minimum a month and a half to, 2 months before the work's done. It just really depends on when the work gets done, to when the bills get sent, to when we're able to put it on the council on a resolution. So I would say safely you're looking at 2 months between when the work starts, when the work is completed by the city until it's on the lien.
Counselor Shane.
A question, you're right about this, about it being seasonal. I was just looking, and every single one of these dates is spring or summer. Yeah. A question about the dollar figures. Did the figures here include the currently accrued interest, or is this just the base amount it started with?
It's just the base amount that was submitted to the lien, and then once they want to pay it, because they're trying to sell the property, I add the.
Then you calculate the
Yes,
interest. Okay, so actually, if any of these were settled, particularly some of the older ones, they'd be probably for more than is even listed here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Mr. Spivey.
Since we went back about 18 months on the last one, do you know how many instances in 2024 that we might have lost due to not getting these?
I think we knocked off maybe, I want to say 2 or 3, but then we also gained 2 or 3, meaning we captured those liens and they had to be paid out for about 2 or 3 of them too.
We did work on 2 or 3 houses and didn't get our money back.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead, Counselor Briggs.
Or I remember we had a big problem on Academy that we paid to clean up. And that's not on here. It wasn't weeds, it was
On Academy Street,
squatters.
yeah. So that was actually paid by the property owner. So that one was, that was done by the property owner, correct. So that ended up,
Some of the property owners do take care of the
yes, so
fees
the,
at the time they're invoiced.
right, so the liens are only for the bills that don't get paid, right? So with that one, we went in and we cleaned up the property. And we knew in advance of cleaning up the property, we had already made an arrangement with the property owner that says, I will pay for this if you can help me get it cleaned up. So the city came in, we cleaned it up, we invoiced the property owner, he paid that. So that's why it's not on the lien docket, because that was paid. But yes, any sort of abatement that we do, whether it's weed abatement or junk, other debris, if we as a city go in and clean that up, then we will invoice the property owner. If the property owner does not pay it, then it would become a lien on the property.
Counselor Fitzgerald.
Is there a way to avoid the interest, say they're making the payments, or if
So-
someone negotiates with the city, or?
I would have to look at the weed abatement specifically, but yes, people can enter into a payment arrangement with the city, and that's quite frequent on different reasons that they owe the city money, but they have to notify us before it becomes a lien to say, hey, I'm not able to pay if it's $1,000. I'm not able to pay the $1,000, but I can pay $100 a month. We say, great, we'll enter into a payment arrangement, or they can do $15 a month.
And then they
So,
would avoid this, maybe
Yes.
this interest?
yes, then they avoid the interest, and then it's just paying the principal on that.
Okay.
Questions? All right, thank you. All right, move on to the next item, Brian, City Municipal Code Review.
Yeah, so over the last few months, I've been working with the city councilors kind of in our one-on-one meetings with me, and I've really encouraged you to start looking at the municipal code. So our process for making changes to the municipal code is really born out of when we discover that there needs a fix to some provision of our code. Maybe it's outdated, maybe there's a change in state law. So we've been proactively identifying those and bringing them to the council. So the question really that I would like to ask is, should we kind of take a holistic picture look of the entire municipal code and review, kind of maybe chapter by chapter, section by section of our municipal code to one, have the council become familiar with all the ordinances that we have in the municipal code, and two, to then evaluate, do these need changed? Or if you don't want to do that, then we can continue to kind of be just proactive as staff, identifying things that we see that need to be changed in the code. I will say the latter approach, while we're proactive, we're not catching everything, and there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And so we kind of bring those as we have time. But if we want to be more proactive in one, knowing what all of our ordinances say, and two, making sure that they're relevant and current, then maybe the former approach of being proactive and looking, at the code would be the way of going about it. So I ask a couple different questions. If you do want to review all of the ordinances in the city's municipal code, the question is kind of, what do you want that process to look like? Do you want to start, at chapter 1 and work our way down to chapter 10 and 11? Or do we want to, have maybe staff prioritize, certain sections over other sections? Do we want to take those to the committees where it's appropriate for the committee? If we're looking at like the park rules ordinance, we take that to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, or we take it maybe the Parks Advisory Board first, and then the Buildings and Grounds, and then to the council. If it's public safety related or nuisance related, does that go to the Public Safety Committee? If it's regarding our utilities ordinances, that goes to the Public Works Committee. So, just kind of questions like that. So I'm really looking for just some discussion on, one, do you want to review all of your ordinances, or do you want us to continue to do the piecemeal approach of as we find it, we bring it to you? Maybe that's what the question we'll start with.
I would opt to prioritize them, go through all of them, but have staff prioritize the ones that are most critical at this point first, is my option.
I would agree with that. I would say that the staff that's dealing with it on a daily basis knows which ordinances are issues and problems and can bring those, and we can address those immediately versus ones that we're just reviewing for the sake of reviewing.
Do you want us to take those to the committees where we feel that it's most relevant for first review before it comes to the full council? Do you want to see these as a full council first in a work session and then they get referred to a committee? What's your approach on that?
Mr. Shane.
Say, let's send them to the appropriate committees. That's what committees are for. That's why they're there.
If we're wanting councilors all know in municipal code, then we should review them all. I'm not saying that's where I sit, but I can vacillate between either side. If you don't go through and read the code, then you're not going to know what is in our code. And there could be sections that shouldn't even be there anymore.
I think the alternate to sending it to committee first would be to bring, a chapter or a couple different sections to the council in a work session and saying, hey, here's, the first maybe 4 or 5 ordinances we need to review. Staff could have a recommendation at the work session to say, these 3 ordinances need to go to Buildings and Grounds. These 2 go to, Public Works Committee. The full council gets to see kind of the ordinances, what we're looking at. It then gets shipped off to the committees. They review the work. If there's changes that are made, it goes back to the full council in the business meeting. So that would be the alternate process to just having staff say, here are these 5 ordinances, and just taking it straight to the committees without the initial look by the council. So what's the preference there between those two?
I think I misunderstood what Larry was saying earlier. I think if we're going to be looking at this 1 through 10 as a council, that shouldn't slow down. The priority ones are known by staff to be bad to go to committee. Did I understand?
Yeah, I suggest we should look at them all, but have staff prioritize the more important ones first.
Yeah, and I think that I understood that, right? So we're going to look at them all. Staff will prioritize the ones that are our problem children that we know about. The question is, do you want me to bring those problem children to the full council in a work session, and then they get farmed out to committees from there, so that way the full council is seeing every ordinance first? Or would you prefer that we just, as staff, figure out which committees those should go to, put them in the committees, and then bring them back to the full council. So that's what I'm asking.
I muddied the waters. I want to unmuddy the waters. Fewer people to go over their original revisions is always a lot more streamlined than trying to go through 9 people. So I would say we send it as to the committees first, then come to the council.
Yeah, and
You read my mind.
yeah, and my thought with that would be, I would not propose the revisions at the work session. It would be, here's the 5 ordinances we're going to look at for revision. We're going to take them to these committees. It would be very high level, but if we don't want to do that, just send them straight to committees, we'll do that. Straight to committees. All right, sounds great.
So what the council would get back at the end would be a red line document that we could say, yeah, looks good. Correct. Go. Okay. That's
And we can change it on the fly if we see something in there that the committee missed or that we don't agree with. Yeah.
Yeah, if it comes back to the council and then the full council gets their eyes on it and says, hey, did we think about this? And you can say, oh, we did or we didn't. If you didn't and you want to think about it, then that can just go back to committee. Yep. All right.
Is that the consensus?
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So for example, I have 2 ordinances that I included in attachments, so we'll just kind of talk about those. The one in attachment A is section 6.700, and it relates to non-motorized vehicles. Essentially, this ordinance does not allow people to use non-motorized vehicles, which includes by ordinance scooters, skateboards, bicycles, and roller skates on sidewalks in the downtown core area. The penalty for a violation, if you're found doing that in the downtown core area, is $75, right? So some questions that you might want to consider with that ordinance is, how's that ordinance being enforced? Is it being enforced? Is it not being enforced? Do we see this as a problem today, right? Most of our ordinances are in the ordinance book because it was addressing an issue, right, at the time. And so is that issue still relevant? Does the penalty fit the violation, right? Do we want to charge people $75 for riding a skateboard in the downtown sidewalk or not? And then there's a geographic question with this one because when I looked at this ordinance closely, let's take Jefferson Street, for example, right? You cannot ride a non-motorized vehicle on the west sidewalks of Jefferson, but you can on the east side of Jefferson Street. So maybe you need to think about that, right? To say, well, if we're going to not allow it on one side of the street, we should probably not allow it on both sides of the street, right? So if nothing else, if we want to keep this ordinance kind of as it is, we'll also want to maybe amend the geography so that it makes sense from an enforcement standpoint. If our officers or code enforcement people are out enforcing this, they're going to want to know if they're on this street, on either side, it's a violation, right? So that's just an example. And then in attachment B, it's section 9.850 and it relates to the waiver of development fees. This ordinance does a few different things. So it's something that's probably important for us to look at. It's really related to the enterprise zone program, which is a tax abatement program offered through the state. We have an enterprise zone in Dallas. Part of the ordinance addresses properties that are within the enterprise zone who qualify for enterprise zone benefits. That says if you qualify for enterprise zone tax abatement and you pay your employees a certain percentage above the median wage of Polk County, then we will give you $5,000 per new employee that you add to then pay development fees, including system development charges.
It does include SDCs.
Right. So a couple challenges with that is if you have an employer that comes in, brand new, they're not in Dallas yet, but they decide to locate in Dallas and they bring 100 employees, right? And they qualify for tax abatement. You're not only saying we're not going to charge you property taxes for 3 years, but you're codifying saying we're going to give you $5,000 per employee and they have 100 employees. So now you're looking at a whole lot of money, $500,000, right? That they can have go towards SDC payments. State law still says that those SDCs have to be paid, but now they're going to be paid by the city instead of the developer or the business. That's a problem because we need to figure out how do we come up with that money? Where does it get paid from? So there's just challenges with that. I don't want to say that we don't want to incentivize businesses to be in Dallas, but with the requirements that we kind of codified really apply to the extended abatement program. So the standard program is a 3-year tax abatement. If a property or a business meets those thresholds that we're codifying as far as the wage requirements, we can negotiate with that business to say, hey, we're going to give you X incentive if you meet that requirement, right? So we can start to negotiate with businesses on a case-by-case basis for those additional incentive packages, including up to 2 additional years of abatement. So going from a 3-year program to a 5-year program. So there's other tools that we can do through a negotiation on a case-by-case, applicant-by-applicant basis. And I think having it codified is just a mistake. So, and a mistake that's going to cost us a whole lot of money if we keep this in here. So this is something that needs to be taken out. There's also some other stuff that relates to businesses that would qualify for enterprise zone benefits, but they don't actually have to be an applicant for enterprise zone. That would allow them to waive all their development fees like sign permit fees, building permit fees, demolition permit fees. And so we really need to say, just because you're a business that would qualify, even if you apply, we probably want to get rid of that as well. So this is just another section of the code that we want to look at as a priority to say, this needs revision. So these are just 2 examples of things that we will bring to a committee in the near future. No discussion on it today is needed, but.
Not to drill down into the weeds, but I just would like to know where that $5,000 number comes from, because it's not mentioned in the summary. Is it actually in the language?
It's included in the code. So if you
It's
go
in
to,
the
if you
ordinance?
go
Okay.
to attachment B, on page, I believe, 13, under section 4, the city
I
council
see
may
it. I
authorize
see
a
it.
qualified business firm a credit up to the amount of $5,000 for each new employee.
That number is actually hard-coded in the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a big deal no matter how many employees they add, right? But in my experience with enterprise zones in the state, I've authorized businesses for up to 500 new employees. If you had 500 new employees and this code language, you're looking at $2.5 million that the city now gets to pay itself from one fund to another, likely coming out of the general fund. Big deal. Big deal. All right, that's all I have on this. Thank you, Mayor.
I'm still hung up on the,
yeah.
back to the bicycle thing. Is it,
We'll talk about it in committee, Council
don't we
Briggs.
have bike racks all over town here?
We do, and they can ride on the street, just not the sidewalk.
Oh.
So this is just pertaining to non-motorized vehicles on sidewalks in certain areas of the downtown core.
And my question about that is there's no bike lanes. There's no. where
So we
for
have sharrows on the road, which is
Sharrows?
like the bike lanes are sharing the travel lanes with vehicles on the road in the downtown. So if you're going up Main Street, they're markings that are on the ground. They're called sharrows. There's a little bike symbol with arrows that kind of point going in the direction of the travel. So bikes are encouraged to be on the roadways in the downtown, which also is why we have a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, right? So.
Well, because I drove down the other day just to kind of see, is there even a place for bikes to ride? And I didn't notice the sharrows. I noticed cars parked all along the streets, so.
And those markings, need to be updated from time to time, just like crosswalk markings, wear out over time. So, but yeah, they're there. And they're not on all the roads though. They're on some of the roads. So, yeah, there's work to do on this, but.
Okay. No other discussion on that. We'll move on to James Howe Road water tank property.
All right, so we recently had a meeting in November where, if you'll recall, the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative requested from the city council to do kind of a feasibility study and some due diligence on the property that the city owns on the north side of the city limits on James Howe Road. It's 30 acres. We purchased that property initially with the intent to put a finished water a tank for storage. And we're going to continue with that plan. That's going to happen, but that's only needed on a certain portion of the property, the really treed portion of the property. The clear portion of the property is where the cooperative is looking at doing a feasibility study for a solar farm. A neighbor of the property up there is interested in just buying a portion of the property from the city. I don't think that necessarily is wanting to have a solar farm next door and said, hey, I'm willing to just buy the property from the city. We really, even when the solar farm concept came up, we haven't talked as a kind of a city body to say, are there other things that we might want to do with that property? So What I'm recommending is, we continue to let the due diligence happen because we signed off on that, and that's happening now. But while that's happening, it's probably good for the city also to evaluate what are all the other possibilities of this property, including selling it to a neighbor, using it for our own purposes. Maybe there's other things that we want to do. You're not locked into the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative lease option. The agreement that you have signed off on says you're going to give them 1 year to do due diligence. After that, if they want to proceed with a negotiation for an option on the property, we'll enter into that negotiation with them. There's nothing saying that we will complete that negotiation or agree to lease that property. So you're not hung up in voiding an agreement that you've already made, but we're allowing them to continue to do their due diligence while we do our own due diligence for what we might want to do with that property, whether it's the solar farm or something else in the future. So I'm just recommending that we take this discussion and conversation to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, where we can flesh out kind of the different opportunities and options that the city may wish to do on that land.
Discussion and the council wanting to go ahead and do that?
I just want to reiterate that we have talked about ball fields and a park and things like that, and I'm just for the record opposed to this solar farm from the beginning, but I think we're probably leading them down a bad path if we're allowing them to go through all these due diligence steps and when they're going to come back and we're going to actually say no anyway, but maybe I'm the only one that feels that way.
Well, I get your point, I do. But the fact that, everybody knows that there's no commitment been made yet. So it wouldn't be like we would be pulling the plug on them on something we'd already agreed to do. They know that the outcome of this feasibility study may or may not result in what they want. And more broadly, that piece of land is a valuable asset, belongs to the city. We should do the due diligence to figure out what's the best possible use for it.
I would add to that I think the city really gave a good signal to the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative when we really modified their lease option form that they gave us. Because the initial form they gave us it was more. Hey, this is the first step to us leasing the property, and you're going to lease the property to us. And we made significant changes to that to really pull back, saying, hey, you're welcome to do due diligence on the property, but we're really not sold on this concept, until that due diligence takes place. And so I think the modifications that we made to that initial agreement have already kind of sent the warning flag to them of, go ahead and do your work, but we're not sure if this is something we want to do. So I don't think we're leading them down a path that they're not already well aware of. And I can follow up with, can't remember, Dan, I think is his name. I can follow up with their contact and just make sure that's clear to him that, hey, while you're doing your due diligence, we're going to look at other opportunities as well. We're not saying you can't do due diligence. We encourage you to do that. But just know that we're also doing other things at the same time.
Hey, you want to send that to Building and Grounds?
That's where I'd like it to go. If
Okay.
council and mayor's okay with that. All right.
Okay. All right. Any other business to bring before the council tonight? Hearing none, I'll adjourn the meeting at 7:33.